We have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to reappoint Copeland and Page PC as legal counsel for the town of North Reading for a term July 1, 2012 through June 30, 2013.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
4-1, motion carries. Moving on, 3% budget transfers.
Well, members,
That's why we have two members of the finance committee.
yes, in your packet is a request that's been submitted through the finance department. It's to transfer $20,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund salary or personnel services budget to the Water Department expense budget. You'll note that in the explanation, the Water Department is short a couple of staff, and as a result, they had to hire an outside contractor to assist with the repair and maintenance of services during this period. Transfers will make the budget whole through the end of the fiscal year. You'll also remember in the vote that takes place at town meeting, there is no ability to share money in enterprise funds between salary and expenses. So that is the reason which is necessary for this transfer, and I would recommend the board so approve.
Any discussion? Mr. Fode?
So have we filled those two positions there?
It was about 6 months of the fiscal year that we were short 2 people.
And as far as using outside contractors, you end up calling a company and doing all the work, or they just supplemented your,
Equipment rental type of work.
oh, okay.
Stuff we could've
So
done
backhoes,
Hired
Yeah,
work.
we had the operator, we could have done it ourselves, we just didn't have the operator.
okay. I have a license next time here.
That'll cost us.
My understanding from the finance committee is that,
Disagreements.
Yeah, exactly.
my understanding from the finance committee is that this is an issue that needs to be or should have been addressed by the finance committee before it came to us. Is that correct? I'm asking Chair of the Finance Committee.
I don't think anybody's 100% sure on which came first, the chicken and the egg, but it is law that the finance committee and the BOS both have to vote on it.
But there's not clear as to whether or not you have to vote before we do.
I think that in the past, the finance committee has voted and made a recommendation to BOS.
Seems to make sense.
We plan on voting on Wednesday night. I already talked with Mark about about his request a couple of weeks ago. I don't foresee any problem in the finance committee voting on it, but we have not voted yet.
So any board member have an issue if we vote on it before Finance Committee, or we vote subject to?
We've done that before.
It's always been
Do it
voted by both
subject to.
boards.
Oh, I'm suggesting either we vote regardless of what they do, or do we vote subject to their vote in favor of?
I think both parties have to
We
agree.
both have to agree.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if one votes no, then the entire thing falls down.
Okay, so it doesn't matter who goes first.
Exactly, so the finance committee actually has more than a recommendation role. They actually have an authority to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll give Ms. Harwood more of a role than she
So-
anticipates.
So I think we can vote.
I have no problem taking a vote in the affirmative and recommending to the finance committee that they do so also.
Anything else from the Finance Committee? No, okay. Anything else, any board member? No? Any further discussion? Any motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve a 3% budget transfer for the Water Department for the year fiscal year 2012 in the amount of $20,000.
Have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Motion
Just
carries.
a question regarding 30% transfers to the town administrator.
Sure.
Mr. Misery? Mr.
Mr.
Belliconi?
Belliconi,
Guys,
Sir,
do you
there's a,
anticipate additional 3%
No,
transfers
sir.
prior to the end of the year?
not at this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Keller?
At the town meeting, we were unable to vote on Article 1 of the special town meeting. And I understand that was going to be dealt with 3% transfers. Has
No.
that changed?
It's not to be dealt with as a 3% transfer, Don.
What has changed?
The fact that we can't move money from the 3%. We cannot, there are insufficient funds in the recreation account to do what we just accomplished with the water department, which is moving money within the enterprise fund. We can move money within the enterprise fund, but we cannot move money from outside the enterprise fund to supplement the recreation enterprise account.
So I guess his next question is, how is it going to be addressed?
We're gonna close the year with status quo, and we'll fund it for retained earnings at October town meeting. Retained earnings from the recreation enterprise. There's no other opportunity other than convening another special town meeting. That one we can do nothing with it.
Recreation is planning on sufficient retained earnings?
Yes, I spoke with the finance director. We will have sufficient retained earnings to be able to fund that amount at October town meeting. So what we do is we carry it forward as a deficit, similar to how we've carried forward deficits in the water fund. We fund it in an October town meeting before we set the tax rate, and the problem is solved.
Anything further? All set? Item 10, liaison assignments.
Wait till Mr. Fode comes back.
May just be a couple of minutes. Board wants to wait. Maybe town administrator's report. Start that, or people just want to wait for Mr. Fode to return.
Your pleasure.
Wait for his return? We'll wait for his return.
Brief recess.
A brief recess. Anyone else want to take advantage of the recess?
You wanna just do our comments,
Comments on
or go around the table?
No, I'm saying we have a recess.
Oh, you got a
wanted
recess,
to
okay.
Take advantage of the recess
Oh,
instead
okay.
of running out after.
I didn't hear the recess.
Mr. Fode
The
comes back.
chair's going to take advantage of the recess and pull Mr. Fode back.
Too much water tonight. That's why I had to leave when I did. It's really warm in this room. When you walk from that hallway back in here, it's really warm.
I thought we were gonna start that all over again.
Yeah, he left.
So we had to stop.
Sean blamed you, now he's not.
He did, didn't he take advantage of that? He's smooth.
He said he went out to find you.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Back in. Liaison assignments. Just for the benefit of the public at home, how this works is each year, the chair reviews the liaison assignments to various boards and commissions and committees. I have done so. I had asked each board member to submit to me this 50 or so liaison assignments, and I asked each board member to submit to me approximately 15 boards, committees, and commissions that they would like to be liaisons to. They have done so, and so I have my appointments to various liaison commissions, and I'll go liaison assignments.
So, but the chairman's role is to recommend liaison assignments. The board actually does the liaison.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, educating me, that's fine. Appreciate that, Mr. O'Leary. I'm just gonna go down the list. Board of Appeals, my recommendation is Mr. O'Leary. Board of Registrars, my recommendation is Mr. O'Leary. The Cable TV Advisory Committee, my recommendation is Mr. Prisco. Commission on Disabilities, Mr. Prisco. Community Impact Team, Mr. Messeri. Community Planning Commission, Mr. Fode. Conservation Commission, Mr. O'Leary. Constables, Process Serving, Mr. Prisco. Council on Aging, Mr. O'Leary. Economic Development Committee, the chair is the recommendation. Energy Conservation Committee, Mr. Fode. Finance Committee, chair. Financial Advisory Committee, although this has not been in existence, and I think the board has to decide what we want to do with some of these committees. It hasn't been in existence for some time. I'll be the chair. Financial Planning Team, that's, by the way, it's been operating. It's the chair and vice chair, it'd be Mr. Moseri and myself. Hillview Commission, the recommendation is Mr. Prisco. I recognize and appreciate Mr. O'Leary's contribution to the Hillview Commission and his liaison for there for some time. Mr. Prisco expressed a year ago interest in this liaison assignment as well as others. He expressed it again to the chair in his most recent go-around. I thought this was an opportunity to make a change. Not that anything that Mr. Prisco and Mr. O'Leary had served in a negative way. Appreciate his service, but I was giving Mr. Prisco an opportunity over in that liaison assignment. I know he's has relationships with a couple of commissioners from the Hillview Commission. He himself is a member at a golf course, so it was the chair's recommendation to give him an opportunity to be the liaison to the Hillview Commission. Historic District Commission, recommendation is Mr. O'Leary. Historical Commission, Mr. Fode. Housing Partnership, Mr. O'Leary. Information Technology Advisory Committee, Mr. Moseri. The Infrastructure Committee, which another committee I believe has not been active most recently, but there's two liaisons to that particular committee, Mr. Fode and Mr. Moseri. J.T. Berry Reuse Committee, Mr. Moseri and Mr. O'Leary. July 4th Committee, Mr. O'Leary. Land Utilization Committee, Mr. Fode. LEPC, Mr. Prisco. Library Trustees, Mr. Moseri. MAPC Representative, Mr. Fode. Martins Pond Study Committee, Mr. Moseri. MBTA Representative, Mr. Fode. Mobile Home Rent Control Board, Mr. Prisco. North Reading Chamber of Commerce, the chair. North Reading Cultural Council, Mr. Moseri. North Reading Forest Committee, Mr. Prisco. North Reading Housing Authority, Mr. O'Leary. Northeast Vogue School Representative, Mr. O'Leary put in a request, if he could be my recommendation to this particular committee, given his relationship with the Diamonds and given the fact that Mrs. Diamond is the North Reading representative to the Northeast Vogue. My recommendation is Mr. O'Leary be liaison to that particular committee. Recycling Committee, Mr. Fode. RMLD Advisory Board, Mr. Prisco. School Committee, Chair. Secondary School Building Committee, the Chair. State Representative, the Chair. State Senator, Chair. Taxation Aid Committee, Mr. Prisco. Town Administrator, Chair. Town Council, Chair. Town Moderator, Chair. Turf Committee.
Is it
Town
needed?
Treasurer.
Is it
It's
needed
not,
anymore?
it's another one, it's not needed, but it's down as Mr. O'Leary, but I didn't want to make that decision on my own, not assign anyone.
We have our turf, and it's well used.
It's well used.
But I think we just need to make decisions as to whether or not there need to be liaisons to certain committees, but for now, Mr. O'Leary will, it's my recommendation. I can read this. Veterans Memorial Committee, Mr. Prisco. Wastewater Planning Advisory Committee, Mr. Fode, Mr. Moseri, and Mr. Prisco. Water Commission, Mr. Fode. Youth Services, Mr. Fode. There's a lot of changes this year due to a couple of reasons. One, new member of the board, as well as a change in chair and vice chair. So that accounts for most of the other changes, and those are my recommendations for liaison assignments for FY 2013. Comments, board members?
Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
You requested the board members email you their recommendations, was sent out about 11 days ago. 10 days ago, I forwarded you my requests. Included in that request was to continue as liaison to